Prank kids are an archetype from Konami's imagination, and when you fuse them all in one, you get some strange creation. Was Konami high when they designed this archetype? They look like they're from Saturday morning kids show. Like, where did this even come from? But don't get me wrong, I think they're adorable. It's just not what I was expecting at all. They're just really different. But technically, this isn't the first time Konami has pulled something like this. I feel like the Prank Kids belong to the same cluster of archetypes as the Ojama and the Dustons. I like to call them the troll archetypes. And in more ways than one, if you look at their cards, you could say that the Prank Kids are like an improved, cuter Ojama. So let's check them out. Prank Kids. Prank and Kids. But we know Konami wouldn't give us such a simple name. In Japanese, the letters L and R are indistinct, so the prank could definitely also refer to Planck, or Max Planck, a physicist famous for his contributions to quantum mechanics and subatomic processes. In particular, there is something called a Planck particle that is described to be a tiny black hole, which I think fits the Prank Kids' size and chaotic nature. The Prank Kids are also all named after waveforms, pulse, drop, and ramp, and wave-particle duality is quite an important concept in quantum mechanics. But how exactly does the deck play? Well, it's kind of hard to describe, but I would call it a boss-reliant fusion beatdown deck with mass destruction capabilities. Boss-reliant meaning similar to Ojama, the grunt monsters are primarily only useful as summoning materials, while the bosses are very powerful in comparison. The Tree Kids only have one effect, and their card name's effect can only be used once per turn. Basically, when they are sent to the graveyard as fusion or link material for a Prank Kids monster, you can activate an effect, after which you can special summon a different Prank Kid from your hand or deck in defense position. The effect is different for each kid. Pulse makes you send a different Prank Kid from your deck to the grave, Ramp inflicts 500 damage to the opponent, while Drop restores 1000 of your life points. Essentially, what this means is that the amount of materials on your field won't decrease if you only conduct one extra deck summon per turn. And if necessary, each Prank Kid grunt can count as 2 materials within the same turn. So this deck provides a lot of support for maintaining materials for extra deck summons. Now, let's look at the fusion monsters. I mentioned that this deck is similar to Ojama because they also have 2 fusions, a weaker one requiring any 2 Prank Kids to summon, and a stronger one that requires 1 of each Prank Kid. Let's start with Prank Kid Rocket. This card name's effects can only be used once per turn. Firstly, it can provide a 1k direct attack during the turn it is fusion summoned. This can be used to finish off your opponent if their life is low. You can also tribute it to special summon 2 different Prank Kids from your grave, allowing you to easily transition from Rocket to the stronger fusion boss House Butler. House Butler can only be fusion summoned. As a quick effect, House Butler can be tributed to destroy all of your opponent's monsters. So here's the mass destruction I was talking about. Secondly, if sent to the graveyard by your opponent, you can special summon a non-fusion monster from your grave. Take note that this card name's second effect can only be used once per turn. Now, we actually have a Link 4 Prank Kids monster as well, Prank Kids Roargon. It essentially shares the same effects as House Butler, including the restriction that it can only be Link summoned. Unlike House Butler, however, it destroys the opponent's back row instead, and its second effect allows you to add a non-Link monster from your grave to your hand. So since Roargon can only be Link summoned, you can't special summon it from the grave with House Butler's second effect. Finally, we have a quick play fusion for Prank Kids that you can use on either player's main phase. I believe the general strategy of this deck will be to get House Butler or Roargon out and tribute them to clear the opponent's field, making use of the Prank Kid Grunt's effects to immediately replenish your materials to summon the bosses again and use them for a beatdown while the opponent is defenseless. I have to say I quite like the idea. So what will make or break this deck is how fast you can assemble your first set of materials on the field. Probably 1 of each Prank Kid. So when constructing your Prank Kid deck, you'll probably want to include cards that give you additional summons to accelerate your setup. So that'll be all for this introduction to the new Prank Kids archetype. The archetype will debut in Deck Build Pack Hidden Summoners, which will release on the 4th of August. So make sure to drop by my channel to catch my opening of it. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Video. Let's access the spinning, swirling data storm, and with the wind our hearts are made to